Or George and Mary, they've got it.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Regular scheduled council meeting of the Park City City Council on August 24th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Marlo, would you call the roll?
John Lynn
Here.
George Glover,
Here.
Ben Salcetta, Melvin Kerr,
Here.
Tom Jones,
Here.
George Capps,
Here.
Randy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader. Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, George is going to lead the invocation. Melvin's going to lead in the pledge. If everybody please stand.
Let's pray. Father God in heaven, we ask for unity tonight in making decisions that affect the citizens of Park City. We pray for wisdom, guidance, and discernment. We pray for provision for any residents in need. Please continue to guide us, O Lord, with all truth and righteousness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. George?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
And John?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 6-0. Dana, you got something for us this evening again? We always like the good news.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'm always happy to bring good news. This evening, I'm going to introduce a new member of our staff, and I am particularly excited about this new staff person because this is a payroll benefits position, and so I am able this evening to introduce a fellow HR professional. So Gale Stone is coming to us, and she has been a director of HR and payroll, and I would ask for her to come forward, please. It's kind of important to get paid, and so this is an important position, and once again, I'm happy to have a co-professional here. So.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. It's exciting to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. I don't have anybody signed up to speak at public forum this evening, so we'll move on to staff reports. Sean?
Good evening, Mayor. Originally, I hadn't planned on anything tonight, but as of about an hour and a half ago, we received an immediate news press release from Kansas Department of Transportation talking about bridge repairs to the northbound 135 and 77th Street bridge. KDOT's bridge repair project on northbound 135 at 77th Street will begin this Thursday at August 26th. The northbound lanes of Interstate 135 will be closed from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day for the duration of a 9-day project. Apparently what had happened is some time ago somebody had hit the bridge and it created some structural damage to it, so they're getting it repaired rather quickly. It's important to note because we right now currently have all sorts of details centered around 77th and Broadway, and this is just going to add to the confusion. Basically, the northbound 135 is going to use both the off-ramp and the on-ramp as the highway itself. So when you get off there, you're not going to be able to get off. They're going to have the barricades on either side. So if somebody is going to go to the Sedgwick County Fire Department or Foley's or the casino, they're going to have to go up to 85th Street, get off, go over to Hydraulic to the east, and then backtrack. So as soon as we received this, a little upset with KDOT that we didn't have a graphic that we could present. But we got it to Matt, who has already had it on our Facebook page and our website, but just wanted to make certain council was aware of that. For about 9 days. It's going to be painful because it's going to be that way from 7 to 3 each of those days. So it's going to create some confusion. Tomorrow morning, Simon and I will both go door to door with every one of our businesses with a copy of the press release to let them know what's going on. So that's it, sir.
All right, Ben.
So with that there, so northbound 135 is closed, and then 77th and Broadway is already closed. Have they, I mean, obviously I'm sure probably our fires department there is just getting word of this as well.
That was one of the first calls I made as soon as I got this, is to call Chief Timmons with the Sedgwick County Fire Department to make certain he had not heard of it as of yet, to make certain that he was aware of what they're going to have to do. Same thing, they'll have to depart and go over to hydraulic up to 85th or down to 61st Street, head over to the highway. Now, the southbound 135 is fine. People getting off, if you're heading southbound on 135, you can get off and you can take a right-hand turn to go to HERRMANN Arena or Ditch Witch, or, other than that, the other way, it's going to be problematic.
By any chance, did you speak with EMS post here in town?
No, I did not, sir.
Okay, that might be a good
Yep.
one there as well. Obviously, this could cause some delays in our first responders, for our first responders, so
Yep.
thank you for
First
making.
call was to the chief, and the second call was to our chief. To make
Thank you very
certain-
much for making that public, and hopefully those watching tonight will see that this could be a delay caused now in
Yes, sir.
some of this. Thank you.
All right, and that was it for staff reports. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? John?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Brandy?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to new business, which is a public hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and consider approval of the resolution. And I will open that public hearing at 7:06. D?
Good evening. The combined notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing was published in the Ark Valley News on August 5th. The proposed estimated mill levy for the 2022 budget is 44.643 mills, the same as last year's final mill levy. However, since that exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 41.101 mills, which is computed using a formula that was implemented during the 2021 legislative session, some new additional steps are required prior to holding the budget hearing. That includes holding a public hearing on the mill levy to hear public comments, and then before closing the public hearing, consider adoption of a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Any questions for me?
Brandy?
I have no questions, so I move to approve Resolution 1085-2021 to exceed the new revenue neutral rate for the 2022 budget.
And Ben?
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
So this has always been one of my pet peeves this year, and do thank you all very much for your work on this. So we are not raising our mill levy any bit from our 2020 balance. And to the public, it might sound that way based upon the calculations that the legislature has decided arbitrarily to set upon cities and municipalities. But to make clear to the public, there is not a single tax increase in this budget presented this year. And so with that, I want to say thank you to our city administration staff there, Dee, to Sean, to Ray for your help in this, as well as the council, in passing a budget that does not raise the taxes, but continues to provide excellent service to our citizens, and even expanding that. So thank you very much.
Okay. I'll ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak on this. Not seeing anyone. We have a motion and a second. Marlo, did you want to call the roll?
John Lindhair.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salzetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that resolution passes 7-0. I will close this public hearing at 7:09. And that brings us to item 5, which is a public hearing to consider the approval of the 2022 City of Park City budget. I will open that hearing at 7:09. Dee?
And again, as I just mentioned, the combined notice that included also the budget hearing was published in the Ark Valley News on August 5th. The total expenditures published were based on the budget version number 4 that was distributed to council via email on July 22nd, and it's also included in tonight's council packet. As noted in the previous agenda item, the estimated mill levy is the same as last year's final mill levy of 44.643 mills.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Dee on this? We all worked pretty good on this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. John?
I'll make a motion to approve adoption of the 2022 City of Park City budget in the amount of $23,482,718 with an estimated mill levy of 44.643 mills.
And Brandy?
Second the motion.
Okay. I'll ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak on this. Not seeing any further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. And I will close that public hearing at 7:11. That brings us to item 6, which is consider the bids, ordinance, and resolution related to the issuance of the 2021-A general obligation bonds. How you doing?
Good evening, Larry KLEEMAN with Renson Financial, city's financial advisor. We took bids today for general obligation bonds and for temp notes, and it was a great sell both ways. Marlo, I think, handed out a handout that I brought along tonight summarizing the bond sale. Has a red page 1 number at the top there. I'll kind of flip through this. First page is the bid tab for the general obligation bonds. And as you can see there, we received 9 bids, which is a great sell. I think the record I've seen maybe 11 since I've been around, but 9 is a lot. And of course, it helps that you guys have a AA- rating. That was affirmed as well. So you had 9 bids here. They put in their interest rate, and then at the bottom, based on the interest rates and based on the underwriting profit that they keep, we calculate an average net interest rate, and that's how we determine the best bid, which is the very bottom line there on each column. And the winner was Country Club Bank out of Kansas City, or Leawood, Kansas, I think, with a 1.21 average interest rate over the 15 years. Country Club's been a really good bidder probably the past 6 months. They're really, whenever they are on the bid list, I'm happy to see them because they usually win it. They quite often win it with some really good bids. But the other ones were not too far behind, as you can see there. The highest bid was 157, so really some good bids there. We advertised for $4.855 million. We included in that a certain amount for underwriter profit, which Country Club did not use, so we can lower the amount of the bond, which on page 2 you can see we lowered it to $4.78 million. And I highlighted the yellow yield column. That's what Country Club turns around and resells it to the ultimate investor. That just kind of shows how low people are buying your bonds for. 1-year bonds at 0.15%, the 15-year bond at 1.6%. So really low rates there. The next page 3 is just the debt service schedule. Again, it goes 15 years, normal principal and interest, semi-annual interest, and a larger principal payment at the end of the year. The bulk of this is going to be special assessments. Page 4, this just shows the flow of funds. Country Club will buy the bonds for $4.78 million plus a premium of about $44,000. We did have one landowner prepay their special assessments, so $22,000 there. City had a little leftover money from the temp note that we'd issued a few years ago. So all that will go into paying off the temp note, the 2019 temp note, and provide funds or reimbursement for the Broadway sewer project, which was not part of the temp note. And of course to pay various costs of issuance. Down at the bottom of page 4, those are the projects that were included in this bond issue. And we also had another good day for a temp note sale, but I'm going to pause there until let you consider the documents that bond counsel prepared. Garth Herrmann's here, but I'll just run through the suggested motions on the page 5 there. I think he normally recommends one motion for the approving the best bid from Country Club Bank, then approving an ordinance and a resolution to authorize the bonds. If you have any questions on the numbers or the documents, we're here to answer them. And I'll be back up for the temp note for the next agenda item then.
Okay. So we will need to make 3 separate motions here. The first one is just on the bid, and then the ordinance issuing that, and then the resolution at the end. So I'd like to take care of those one at a time, if there is a motion on the first item. Ben? Or I'm sorry, Brandy?
I move that the bid from Country Club Bank be accepted and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized and directed to execute the bid form selling the bonds to the best bidder on the basis of the bid and terms specified in the notice of bond sale.
Okay, Ben?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 7-0. Now we need to take care of the ordinance issuing that 2021A. Brandy?
Move to approve ordinance 1128-2021, authorizing and providing for the issuance of the general obligation bonds, Series 2021-A of the City of Park City, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal and interest of said bonds as they become due, authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewithin, and making certain covenants and with respect thereto.
John?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marlo, would you call the roll?
John Linear,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Sosetta,
Aye.
Melvin Kerr,
Aye.
Tom Jones, George Capps,
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that ordinance passes 7-0. That brings us to the last item we need on this, which is the resolution authorizing the sale. Brandy?
I move to approve Resolution 1086-2021, prescribing the form and details and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation bonds, Series 2021-A of the City of Park City, Kansas, previously authorized by Ordinance 1128-2021 of the issuer, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and the security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
All right, Tom?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 7, which is consider the bids and resolution relating to the issuance of the 2021 temp note.
And again, back to my handout, page 6 has the bid tab for the temp notes. We had 7 bids, and again, fortunately, the winner was Country Club Bank out of Leawood, Kansas. You can see there they had the best average net interest rate at the bottom, 0.44%. Several of those were close behind, 0.55 range and so forth. So page 7 is just the debt service schedule, again, this and the list of projects. Most of these are for some residential projects, which will end up being special assessed, the debt service, when we turn this into a bond. There are a few other at-large projects there at the bottom. Looks like street and lift station projects. And again, at the top of the page, 7 shows the debt service schedule. Again, it's a 3-year temp note. The interest that's due on it every 6 months is included in the temp note, so you don't have to budget for that. And it's callable after 1 year. So as these projects are completed, we can consider bonding them at that time. Page 8 just has the flow of funds. Again, a little over $3.7 million goes toward all those projects, and the remainder is for either interest on the notes or paying the cost of issuing the notes. And again, page 9, just like your agenda has, there's a couple motions. One to approve the best bid, the Country Club, and in this case, there's only a resolution to approve. It's no ordinance for the temp note. Any questions on the numbers or documents?
Not seeing any. Thank you. All right, so as he said, we'll need those 2. Tom?
I'd move that we accept the bid from Country Club Banks
Be accepted, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized and directed to execute the bid form of selling notes to the best bidder on the basis of the bid and the terms specified in the notice of sale, note of sale.
Okay, Brandy?
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to our second item we need to take care of is the resolution. Ben?
Yeah, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 1087-2021, authorizing, directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2021-1 of the City of Park City, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax if necessary for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said notes as they become due, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
Brandy?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Larry. That brings us to item 8, which is discuss and consider the proposed special use permit for indoor vehicle storage use on the property located in the northwest corner of 61st Street North and Hydraulic. Russ?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Russ Avey, Interim Zoning Administrator. We have a special use permit for your consideration tonight that was recommended last month by the Planning Commission unanimously, subject to several conditions. The special use is for a private car storage facility just over catty corner across 61st and Hydraulic. Part of the property is the Daylight Donut Shop. This would be the undeveloped area to the northwest. They are proposing to construct a building for the private storage of Mr. Bob Aldrich's car collection. We had 2 neighbors show up during the discussion at Planning Commission. One was concerned with localized drainage and a new construction project, how that would impact that, her property. And we had another gentleman speak about the perceived, or at least in his opinion, lower use of commercial property in this location. At that time, staff addressed the fact that the city is looking to develop a greater area for localized, centralized retail and commercial activities behind the city building. And there was very little else discussed. The factor supporting that recommendation for approval is found in the staff report. And the recommended conditions of approval are 6, that it is only for a personal storage of personal vehicles in addition to the balance of the by right permitted uses in the C1 zoning district. Any type of automobile sales are prohibited, so this can't ultimately turn into a vehicle sales lot. It shall basically conform to, development shall conform to the site plan submitted by the applicant. There is a screening requirement of an 8-foot screening fence along the west property line where adjacent to residential uses. And again, number 4 is very standard. Any type of non-compliance with these conditions, the special use may be revoked. There are some lighting standards adopted or in the recommendation to minimize light trespass to the west, and a confirmation that all parking and drive aisles will be paved per city standards. With that, I'll stand for any questions that the council may have.
Randy, is that you from your last second? Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for us? Not seeing any. Is there a recommendation from the council? Ben?
I do have just one question real quick, and I believe I'm ready to make a motion based on, so the building sizes, maybe I'm just making sure I'm clicking through everything on there. Is it just going to be like a metal frame building, or what type of building? I guess it's just gonna be one building, and what was the structure type?
It'll be one square-shaped commercial building. The architecture was not discussed at the time of the Planning Commission.
That's fine. I didn't know if we knew on that. I have no problem with this. I think it'll take up that land there that's been there for a while for sale. So I would go ahead and get to make sure I'm at the right one here. Move to approve ordinance 1129-2029, an ordinance approving a special use to establish an indoor vehicle storage unit in the C1 Central Business District on certain property located in the city of Park City, Kansas, under the authority granted by the zoning regulations of the city, subject to the, no, my mind went blank there, sorry, the protective overlay mentioned.
Special use permit.
Special use permit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, George?
Well, you say the architecture wouldn't,
Did you want a second for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
Go right ahead.
You say he wouldn't discuss the makeup of the building?
That wasn't brought up during the public hearing during the Planning Commission meeting.
And no one asked?
No.
Do you have any idea what it will be?
The agent's applicant as well as the contract buyer are both in attendance. I might step aside and see if they have any additional information.
I'd be curious of what kind of building and how big.
Evening, Mayor, council members, Mr. Gilbert, or Mr. Capps. The building will look like the strip center to the east, pretty similar in architecture and covering, so.
Okay.
That'd be helpful. By the way, I should say Tim Austin with Iron Horse Development is agent for the applicant, so sorry about that, Mayor.
You have any idea how big it'll be?
It's designed for 8,000 square feet. It'll be set back pretty much in line with that strip center, so long-term, if there's an opportunity to convert that to a retail shopping center similar to what's there, it'll lend itself to doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marla, would you call the roll?
John Linear,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Sosetta,
Aye.
Melvin Kerr,
Aye.
Tom Jones,
Aye.
George Capps,
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that passes 7-0. That brings us to item 9, which is discuss and consider approval of the PLATHER addition, a final plat for the property located at the southeast corner of 77th Street North and Broadway. Russ?
Thank you. Good evening again, Russ Avey, Interim Subdivision Administrator. You had heard the council approved the zone change associated with this project last month. This sits at the southeast corner of 77th and Broadway and contains 17 acres and is being platted with six lots, one new street and a reserve. The plat reflects some zoning conditions placed on it during the zone change approval. The Planning Commission unanimously approved both the preliminary plat in June and the final plat that's before you tonight on the 26th of July. Fairly straightforward application, and I'll stand for any questions that you may have. The developer's agent's also in attendance if there's any specific technical questions.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Russ or the applicant? Is there a recommendation from the council? Brandy?
I move to approve Resolution 1088-2021, a resolution determining the advisability of making of certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for making of the improvements in accordance with such findings, paving improvements, PRATHER edition.
All right, we're on item 9. So we're looking at the plat, and we need to...
My bad. I make a motion to approve the final plat as presented.
Okay, John?
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 10, which is discuss and consider a resolution determining advisability of paving improvements for the PRATHER addition. John?
Yes, sir. The next 4 are all in relation to the PRATHER addition just approved. The attached petition was filed with the city clerk proposing pavement improvements to the Prather addition. The petition was signed by the owner of record of more than one half of the area liable for the assessment of the proposed improvements, and therefore the petitioner requested that such improvements be made without notice and hearing as required by KSA 12-6. The improvements on this one for the paving includes construction of Osage pavement on Osage Trail with drainage to be installed where necessary to serve the area above described in the improvement district, all in accordance with the city standards and plans and specifications prepared and or approved by the city engineer. The estimated or probable cost for the proposed improvements is $510,000, with said estimated cost to be increased at a prorata rate of 1% per month from and after the date of adoption of this resolution authorizing the improvements. The improvement district will be assessed for the cost of the improvements is lots, and this is for all four, the next ones, there's no change in them. Lots 1 through 2, Block 1, lots 1 through 4, Block 2, Prather Addition, Park City, Sedgwick County, Kansas. The method of assessment remains the same on all four as well, is on a square footage basis as described below. Lot 1 would pay 18.36% of the total assessment. Lot 2, Block 1 would pay 15.2% of the total assessment. Lot 1, Block 2 shall pay 16.7% of the assessment. Lot 2, Block 2 shall pay 11.83% of the assessment. Lot 3, Block 2 shall pay 11.05% of the assessment. And Lot 4, Block 2 shall pay 26.86% of the total cost of the assessment. The apportionment of the cost of the improvements between the improvement district and the city is 100% to be assessed against the improved district and 0% to be paid for by the city.
Thank you, Sean. Does anybody have any questions for Sean? Ben?
I do not have any questions, so I go ahead and move to approve Resolution 1088-2021, a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings.
All right, John?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 11, which is for the sanitary sewer improvements. Sean?
Yes, sir. In this one, the improvements include a sanitary sewer collection system, including the necessary manholes, cleanouts, and appearances to serve the area described as the improvement district, and again, within the accordance of the city standards, plans, and specifications, and approved by the city engineer. The estimated cost for the proposed improvements is $130,000. The improvement district remains the same 6 lots and divided equally the same as previously outlined by a percentage basis on square footage.
Okay. John?
I'll move to approve Resolution 1089-2021, a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings. Sanitary sewer improvements, Prather Addition.
Ben?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 12, which is the stormwater drainage improvements. Sean?
Yes, sir. For this petition, the improvements include construction of a drainage pond, including necessary appearances, along with mass grading to be installed where necessary to serve the area described as the improvement district. The estimated cost of the improvements is $245,000 to be divided among the 6 lots previously mentioned at the same percentage rate previously mentioned.
Ben?
Yeah, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 1090-2021, a resolution determining the advisability of the making of certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for the making of the improvements in accordance with such findings for the stormwater drainage improvements in Prather Addition.
Okay. Tom?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 13, which is the water distribution improvements. Sean?
Yes, sir. And finally, the last petition for the improvements include a water distribution system, including necessary water mains, pipes, valves, hydrants, meters, and appliances to serve the area described within the district. The estimated cost is $130,000 among the 6 lots at the same percentage based on square footage.
Okay, Brandy?
I move to approve Resolution 1091-2021, a resolution determining the advisability of making of certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for making of the improvements in accordance with such findings. Water improvements, Prather Edition.
Tom?
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 14, which is discuss and consider approving a work estimate for the construction, engineering, and inspection for the 61st Street project. Sean?
Yes, sir. During the last meeting, council approved KDOT's authorization to award a contract to Kansas Paving for construction of the 61st Street project. As part of the project, KDOT will also award a contract for construction, engineering, and inspection services, but based on the city's recommendation. In June, staff received 4 submissions and conducted a selection process based on the company's ability to perform the work in the time frame described, their past performance, their training, their previous experience, commitment of resources to the project, and then finally their familiarity with the project area. Staff recommended Trans System Corporation. Attached is a work estimate form in the amount of $546,808.18. KDOT is requesting an authorized representative, the mayor, from the local public authority to sign the estimate in order for KDOT to proceed and award the contract. The total funds allocated for construction are $4.105 million. Given the construction contract previously approved at $3.6 million, $549 remain under WAMPO or KDOT's cost share agreement, meaning 92% of this cost will be covered under the 80-20 cost share process. That's a lot to say.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Sean? Okay. Brandy?
I move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign Trans System Work Estimate Form in the amount of $546,808.18 to be paid out of the Capital Project Fund.
And John?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 15, which is discuss and consider approval of the installation of chain link fence along the perimeter of the senior center pickleball court. Simon?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back during the February 23rd, 2021 City Council meeting, Council approved the construction of a pickleball court on the south side of the senior center. Since its construction, the pickleball court has drawn quite the crowd to play on it. We've pretty much found out that we need a perimeter fence to prevent the loss of balls and also prevent the damage to nearby vehicles in that parking lot. So what we're requesting is the approval for the mayor to enter into contract with American Fence Company to install the pickleball perimeter fence and gates. This purchase will be paid utilizing the general fund senior center expendable trust fund. And we only received one bid, and that was from American Fence Company for $7,981. She said to put it on that.
Funding in there to do that.
Oh, okay. The general fund senior center department fund, I'm sorry.
Okay. Ben?
Thank you for addressing this. I had someone bring this to my attention a couple months ago at a coffee event and had mentioned the fence or some sort of perimeter there, not just for the balls and the vehicles, but also for player safety too, just with the parking bricks. So thank you all for working on this. So I'd make a motion to approve the quote from American Fence in the amount of $7,981 for the installation of chain link fence at the Senior Center pickleball course to be paid out of
General Fund Senior Center Department.
Oh, okay, as it's written. Okay, perfect, thank you.
John?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Simon, you're up again. Get to discuss and consider approval of the replacement of 2 HVAC systems at the senior center.
So the senior center was constructed approximately 1997. The HVAC system to heat and cool the facility or original to that building. In July, 2 of the units that heat and cool the kitchen, the bathroom, the office area stopped working. These units are obsolete and they're not repairable and are going to require a replacement. So we reached out to a few companies to try to get bids for the replacement. Moody Heating and Air Conditioning provided additional option of going with the 16 SEER unit for additional cost of $1,000. The higher SEER unit, of course, will be more efficient and result in lower utility bills in the future. Staff has recommended the approval for the mayor to enter into contract with Moody Heating and Air Conditioning to replace the 2 HVAC units. The purchase will also be paid utilizing the general fund senior center department. The 3 bids that I got, the lowest bidder was Moody Air Conditioning at $11,000, and that would be for a 13 SEER unit. If we went with the more efficient 16 SEER unit, it would be $12,000.
Okay.
I recommend the more efficient unit.
Okay. All right, Tom?
I'm going to move that we approve a quote from Moody Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $12,000 for replacement of 2 high-vac systems at the senior center to be paid out of the general fund senior center department.
John?
Second.
Okay. Brandy?
I would like to make an alternative motion.
Okay.
Was our more efficient one, is that ready?
This is Moody. It's still the lowest bidder.
I'd make a motion to approve the quote from Moody Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $12,000 for the replacement of 2 HVAC systems at the senior center to be paid out of the general fund senior center department, the more efficient.
That's the
I think
motion
there's
I
a
made.
point of order. I wasn't paying attention. Was there a motion and a second?
There was a motion.
That
and-
needs to be disposed of before there can be another motion. There's no substitute motions.
The motion was for the more efficient unit.
Tom, I don't believe that's correct.
Pardon?
I don't believe that's correct.
Okay.
Which one's the more efficient unit?
The 16 SEER unit, the $12,000 unit.
The $12,000 unit.
And I said $12,000?
And that's what Tom said.
You said
You said
11,000.
11,000.
I heard 12.
No, he said 12,000.
I scratched it out and put 12 in, and I said 12.
Okay. All right, that's not what I heard.
I'm confused. I heard 12,000 out
I
of
heard
Tom.
11.
I heard 11.
I heard 12.
Wrong.
Okay.
Can we restate the motion?
Yes, Tom, would you restate?
You want me to restate it?
Just clarify that the dollar
I said that
amount.
I made a motion for Moody Heating and Air for $12,000
Okay,
for the more
the-
efficient unit.
For the more efficient one.
That's what I heard.
And John?
I'm the longest distance away, and I heard 12,000.
Okay, that's fine. We're calling for clarification here. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just teasing.
All right. So we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item 17, which is considered a contract with Uber Technologies to repair the main lift station, trash screen, and electric hoist.
So the main lift station at the old plant was constructed and placed in operation in 2008. This lift station carries a majority of the sanitary wastewater to the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority Treatment Facility. In 2020, the hoist assembly failed and caused the pump to fall into the sump, resulting in a damaged pump. The hoist was sent off for repair, but was deemed non-repairable. Due to not having a hoist, we must hire a crane to remove the pumps when they need to be serviced, and this is resulting in higher repair costs. The trash screen at that main lift station has given us problems for years. When it became inoperable is really unknown to me. When I arrived in 2021, it was one of my first findings. This component of the lift station is vital as it helps to prevent trash and debris from entering the areas that the pumps are housed. Trash can plug up the pumps, damage the impellers, and cause electrical motors and components to fail due to overloading the system. Huber Technologies are the builders of the trash screen and our sole source provider. Staff is requesting the approval for the mayor to enter into contract with Huber Technology to install a new 3-ton hoist and repair the trash screen at the main sewer lift station for the total cost of $30,599.07 to be paid out of the utility fund sewer.
Okay. Ben?
Okay, go ahead and move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign and execute a contract with Uber Technology to install a new 3-ton hoist and repair the trash screen at the main sewer lift station in the amount of $30,599.07 to be paid out of the utility fund sewer department.
And John?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Thank you. That brings us to closing comments. Just want to say the interest rates are phenomenal. I don't know if we have anything we need to go back and look at, but after seeing those, it makes you want to take on some more projects because that's almost free money. So I just want to make sure we're paying attention to that because there could be some significant savings and projects that we could move forward on. It's good for homeowners too, so. That's all I got. Randy?
I don't have anything tonight.
George?
Well, I want to go back and refer to some people many years ago, and none of them are around here anymore, but on this morning of this date, 31 years ago, I was working as a sergeant in investigations. And I come into City Hall, I don't know, close to 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was a big sign out front. It says, Sergeant Capps is over the hill. So I got out, and I wasn't in a very good mood. I picked it up out of the ground, threw it down, walked over to the back door to go in, and there on the sign on the door, Sergeant Capps is over the hill. And I tore that off, and I thought, man, they don't give a guy a break. That's going to be one of those days. So I walked in, and the chief was sitting in there, and he said, hey, come in here a minute. Went in there, and he was sitting there, leaned back, and his badge was blacked out. I said, who died, Chief? And he said, well, actually, nobody died. We're just mourning the passing of someone's youth. And he said, come with me. And went back, and in the squad room was the entire City Hall, all dressed in black, all dressed in black, and wheelchairs and canes, and they gave me an over-the-hill party. And I will never forget that. That was a great, joyous occasion, because you know when you're accepted by your fellow employees, it's a big day. And I know none of them's around now, but the old man's still here 31 years later. But just a small story. That's how it was in those days. Thank you for the time.
Tom?
I don't have anything.
Melvin? I don't have anything. Ben?
I do have one thing that I'd like to bring to attention and for us to consider and see if there's interest there. So as many of you saw there, the census numbers related to the 2020 census, Park City gained over 1,000 new citizens over the last decade, which is great for growth there, and puts us back in the 4th largest city spot in Sedgwick County. And so we're excited about that. But with that, there generally, as we get up to the federal level and the state levels, we see the realignment of districts and such. And so one of the things I think that'd be prudent for us as a county, or sorry, as a city, is to look at our boundaries for our wards ahead of time. If we do not, then it is up to the county election officer to redraw our precinct maps to make them proportional. And so I think it would be wise for us to look and see what makes the most sense for us to keep continuous compact districts or wards here in Park City. Just based upon the geography of our districts, Ward 3, where George and I serve, is the one that by geography would have had the least ability to grow over the last decade, simply being that it is landlocked. Whereas 4, 2, and 1 obviously have potential for great growth. So representation, I feel, once we get more numbers in or more detailed information as far as where in our city the population growth happened, it would be wise for us to look at redrawing these maps in a way to make sure that all of our wards are consistent. Again, I know this was done in 2012 and in 2002, but my thought or suggestion to see if anybody would be interested in it is maybe forming a subcommittee of maybe a couple council members, staff, and maybe expand it to a couple people within the city if that would be the interest, and see if maybe have 3 or 4 different possible solutions or possible maps for the council to consider adopting as we look at redistricting in 2022. So that was one of the things I know is coming up, and again, I think my concern, one of the big concerns is, giving us the ability to redraw our districts based upon what we know of Park City rather than our election commissioner who has to deal with the entire county. So that was what I had tonight. If there's any interest, like I said, that'd be great. And then also wanted to say thank you to the Prathers and to the Aldriches for continuing to look to Park City for areas of growth and business. So we are excited to see that take place.
Okay, George?
Yeah, I'd also like to re-welcome Gale to our HR staff. Also had a chance to play our pickleball court here by the senior center. Had a great time with some friends. It's a great interest as far as exercise and family fun, so if you've never tried it, go out there and try it. Thank you.
John?
I have nothing. I'd make a motion we adjourn.
All right, Ben?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Melvin, did you have something?
No, I don't.
Okay. With nothing else, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And that motion passes 6-1.
We'll hold that against you, Melvin.
Yeah, good job.